Welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to start using that variable that we made in the last program. You'll see here in the last little sample we did, we made a variable called num that could store an integer, and we set it with a starting value of 1. Usually a program, though, will take a variable, which has the word vary, which means to change, and usually the program will change the value of the variables as the program's running, right? Think of player score in a game. Score starts at 0, it doesn't stay 0. It's going to change, it's going to adapt. So let's see how we can do that in a few different ways using this simple little program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with my variable num equals 1. I'm going to go down to the button num, and I'm going to take out the code that I already have in there, and I'm just going to blank it out. When the button number is hit, I know that the num equals 1. I'm just going to change it to something like, I'm going to change it to 7. So here we go. Example of changing a variable, that easy. And what this is supposed to read like is, hey num, set yourself equal to 7. And then again, notice the semicolon. Okay, that's it. Let's give this a run and see what happens here. Right click run. Now I'm hitting the button and nothing's happening. Here's a little lesson. Is it running my code or is it not running my code? Well, the answer is yes. The code is running successfully. But, lesson learned, when you change a variable value, it does not mean it goes into the text box and changes what the text box is showing. This has to be a separate line. So you actually have to do this again. You have to say, hey, text num, set your text to. And I'll just use this little trick, right? The quote, quote. And I put the number in the box. Now when we give it a run, you'll see I hit the button and I get to see the 7. So now you know how to change the value of a variable in a very easy way. Let's get another button on here that's going to double the value of num. So let's go to design. I'm going to add a button really quickly here. I'm going to call this button variable name. I'm going to call it button double. I'm going to change the text, edit text, to double num. Double click it to give it some code. And here's my code I'm going to add. Here's how you make a variable change like a double. Hey num, set yourself equal to num times 2. The times symbol there, that's just shift 8, okay, for multiplication. So basically this uses itself in a little equation, and you're totally free to do that. If the value of num, let's say it's going to be 1 when the program starts, right? We started at 1. And then I hit button double, it's going to say, hey num, set yourself equal to num, which is 1, times 2. So the answer on this side of the equal sign is 1 times 2, which is 2. Hey num, set yourself equal to 2. And of course, we have to do a little num set text, quote, quote, plus num, and there we go. Little quick test out, right click run, and every time I hit double, it doubles it. Now notice if I hit double again, it's remembering the value of number in memory is 2, 4. Every time I hit, it keeps doubling, and little bonus here, eventually it goes back to 0, which is really weird. There's a little rule in Java we'll talk about later. It doesn't matter too much now, but an integer variable only sets enough room in memory to store a number that goes up to a certain size. Once your number goes bigger than that size, the number breaks and the number becomes 0. Okay, so I don't know, you can sort of test out what that number is, but there's a good example of the doubling. Now there's one more I want to do here to show you with the numbers, as I'm just going to do a little design here. I'm at a little button called add. So button add, and change this text to add. And when I double click this add button, I'm going to want some code to occur. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it add up 2 different variables. So I have this variable called num. I'm going to give my program another variable up here, and I'm going to call this one num2, and I'm going to set it equal to 100. Notice you can use numbers in your variable names. So now that I have that second variable, I'm going to try to add them, and then I want to calculate an answer. So for my answer, I think it would be nice to actually have another variable. I'm just going to leave this variable set to 0 to start, and I'm going to call this variable answer. Now let's go down to that button and actually put our code using these three variables. So there it is, button add. And I'm going to do a nice simple line here. What I want to do is I want to take the two numbers, num and num2, add them up, and show the answer in the box. So here we go. Hey, answer variable. Currently it's 0, right? But I'm going to assign it a new value. I'm going to say, please set yourself equal to num plus num2. Okay, and that's going to be an answer, and I'm going to put that answer inside of text num. I'll even write some text this time. The sum, I'm adding them, right? The sum is answer. Notice, you can do math equations on this line. Okay, and these math equations can get as complicated as you want. I'll show you some examples after, but let's give this a quick test. We know the answer of 1 plus 100 is 101, and so when I hit add, the sum is 101. Keep in mind my other buttons still work. If I want to double num, num is now 2, num is now 4, num is now 8. Let's try adding up now. Now it's going to be adding up num, which is 8, with num2, which is still sitting at 100. The sum is 108. Not bad, right? I'd said before this line can get more complicated. You could do anything you want in your equations. Like I can do something just that makes no sense here. I could say num times 4 plus num2 bracket minus 789. You know, you can go on and on and on, times 5. Yeah, some weird number, right? But this totally works fine. Whatever the answer would be is the answer it's going to give you. But it does the math just like it would do negative 3441, just like you would do on your graphing calculator. As long as you follow the operations, you can use parentheses if you want, and this will just run through and calculate the right answer. Okay, so that's a little bit of math there for you. Anyways, that's all I want to show you in this video. A little bit about doing math and setting values with your variables. In the next video, we're going to take a look at reading the numbers that a user types in. This program's pretty lame if all it does is use the number 1 and 100. We want to be able to see what the user's entered in the box. Okay, and that's an important one to do because that's something very common in a lot of programs and games is a number will be entered. You better know what it is. See you then.